We got some splaining the Dolose. Now, um, you're hearing some piano music in the background from Ghibli Studios, but I'm about to turn it down so I don't get uh, copyrighted for that music. Um, but I'll leave it on in the background. So anyway, what's going on, guys? I've done a few YouTube shorts over the last few days on some interesting things. So, on the happy side of things, um, and I might do a separate live on this and expound on it. So, apparently, some scientists at, uh, I guess, a private um, bioscience firm called Collateral Biosciences, they have brought back the direwolf. Yes, this is not science fiction. This is not Jurassic Park. The direwolf is the first prehistoric animal to become de-extinct. De-extinct meaning no longer extinct. And we're not talking about bringing. This is not like the same as a species who we thought was extinct, and then we find out, oh, there are actually still a few of them in the wild. No, this was an actual extinct animal from 12,500 years ago. Okay, the direwolf, made famous in Game of Thrones from the based off the A Song of Ice and Fire. They brought it back. They did so, and again, this is a lab called Collateral Biosciences. Apparently, the scientists there over at Collateral took fossilized DNA from direwolves. Well, they extracted DNA from direwolf fossils, and using cloning technology, uh, they brought back the direwolf through the embryos of current gray wolves. Uh, so there's three direwolf pups, as I can recall right now so far. Um, and even though they it's sort of a direwolf gray wolf hybrid, they were said that they are currently resembling the actual direwolves from 12,500 years ago. So brought back the we've de-extincted the first prehistoric animal. What's up, Agatha? Oh, that's fine if you can be here for too long. So they brought back the first prehistoric animal. I thought it was going to be like the mastodon or the woolly mammoth, but no, we got the direwolf first, which is great because we need predators anyway. We need more predators. Um, so curious how what they're going to do with this. If they're going to do more of these direwolves, are going to improve upon this cloning technology to bring back other prehistoric animals. And some of these prehistoric animals we should be bring back because some of them are extinct due to human hunting. So this is great. The irony that I brought the irony that I brought up in my YouTube short earlier today was the fact that we've brought back the direwolf before George R. Martin has been able to write his last two books because that's how fucking slow that he writes. The last book he wrote from the Song of Ice and Fire series was The Dance of Dragons back in 2011, 14 years ago. He's written other things since then. He's written some like sci-fi, some horror, some short stories based on the Song of Ice and Fire world. He wrote a history of Westeros, and he's written prequel books, um, House Fire and Blood, on which the new spin-off show House of Dragon is based. And there's going to be a new show coming out, I believe, next year, which is based on what's it called, a night in the, I forgot, but it is, it takes place, I believe, like 100 years after the events of Fire and Blood. But all of that, but he still couldn't finish the last two books, and now he's saying he probably never will. So we got back a prehistoric animal mentioned in his show before we got his books. So I just find that very humorous. Um, anyway, that's not what you guys are here for. You're here for the other stuff that I'm here to talk about. If you looked at my subject, I mean on my title, deportations, tariffs, and Trump. That is the topic for tonight. Deportations, tariffs, and Trump. Another one of the YouTube shorts that I made was basically about, there was a man from my home state of Maryland who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador and dropped off at the prison there. The problem is he so people keep saying, this is what I want to dispel right off. People are saying this guy's an innocent man. That is a lie. This is not an innocent man. This guy is a MS-13 gang member. People were like, oh, that's just alleged. No, it's in the docket. It's in the court dockets. The reason, so, and this goes to the whole mistaken deportation. The reason why it was a case of mistaken deportation is because he actually has protective orders against being deported to El Salvador because he has ops there. The guy, he has enemies there who would hurt him were he to go back because he is a full-fledged MS-13 gang member from there. And the other reason he's not an innocent citizen, he's not a citizen. He's not American. He's neither innocent nor he's a citizen. He's not innocent because he's been previously convicted as a in gang affiliated activities, and two, he's not an American citizen. So people sitting there talking about Trump, the Trump blah blah blah, so evil because they mistakenly deported an innocent man to El Salvador. Now he's stuck in prison. No, no, he's not innocent. He's not an American citizen. And the only reason it was mistaken is because the court said that he could be deported to other places, but he could not be deported back to El Salvador. Because he has protective orders against being deported there because he has enemies and he has a family who might hurt his family. My thing is, okay, well, maybe you should have thought of that before you got into that life. There's there's rules to this shit. People in the life know that. They know that there's rules to this stuff. How his mistake and a lot of these other guys' mistake is that they thought, though they were in the life, that they could rest assured that the leniency of the American justice system on illegal immigration would be a thing that they could bank, that they could continue to count on, that it would be, if not unending, it would be something that, more or less would not come back to bite them. But no. And he's not the only one. So last week, or I think it was like Friday, Thursday, something like that, the Trump administration also said they were revoking all visas from people from South Sudan, that hellhole of a country. Joseph hopefully gets a third term. Or he didn't rule it out, did he? um, but uh, yeah, so I was hoping Myron Gaines, the guy from Fresh and Fit. By the way, Myron Gaines is not his real name. His real name is Amaru Fadu something or other. He's a Sudanese person that talks a lot of shit about black people. despite not actually being black himself. He's a sand Negro, and put it that way. And he fakes the funk like he's a black person so he can talk about black people. But the thing is, he would never talk about his own people, Sudanese people. Um, but unfortunately, I think he was actually born here in Brooklyn, New York. So he will be here. I don't know about his family. I don't know about his family, but I guess he won't be deported since he's actually an American citizen. But a lot of these South Sudanese are gone. Okay. uh, Also, um, Trump was sending 500,000 Haitians back to Haiti, and they're all crying, talking about why won't black people support them. Black people are chilling. Most black people right now are chilling. I see black people going to the club. I'm not even joking. I see black people going to the club, getting the grill ready, getting ready for Easter. A lot of black people are not out here panicking. This stuff does not affect us. And so a lot of these immigrants out here, like, man, y'all next. Y'all next. Um, this is what they don't get. And I've mentioned this in other videos, and I'm going to restate it here. What a lot of these immigrants don't get about black people here in America, black act like actual black Americans or foundational black Americans, we're not immigrants. This is our home. As much shit as black and white people get into with each other, there is a there is a there is sort of a social contract between blacks and white people that we are the real Americans. And a lot of immigrants don't get that. See, the problem is a lot of them come here and become white adjacent. You have a lot of people from the Indian community, people from the Asian community, people from the Latino community, and even people from the African and Caribbean diaspora who look down upon foundational black Americans. They say, oh, you guys are lazy. You can't get ahead in your own country, blah, 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 blah. Um, and to be quite honest, some of their critiques are true. So let's not pretend they aren't. Some of their critiques are genuinely true. The 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 issue is that they put themselves above foundational black Americans, which I'm just gonna say black from here on out. and and I get it with like some of the Latinos and the Asians and Indians, but when it came to the Caribbean folks and the black folks delineating themselves from us, it felt like a slap in the face. So now, after years of delineating themselves from us, even though we welcomed them into community with open arms, now that they're being sent back to their homes, we're like, peace out. Like, you said you weren't us, so now you're gonna see that you aren't us, and you're gonna wish you were us because we're still here, we're chilling. And when they say, "Well, yeah, they coming for you next," uh, here's the thing: they never stop coming after us. The difference is because we have nowhere else to go. We fought for our position. You guys didn't. You fleed your countries instead of fighting to improve your countries. You fleed your country for greener pastures here in America, and you made a life here better for yourself here than you did in your home country, in your homeland, off the backs of our civil rights leaders that provided this way for you back in 1965. Because our civil rights leaders, who also fought for the Civil Rights Act in 1964, also fought for the Immigration and Naturalization Act of 1965. If it wasn't for our civil rights leaders, they wouldn't have accepted you guys en masse into this country. So when you guys say, "Oh, they coming for you next," they never stopped coming for us. We were the first. The difference is, though, we're not immigrants. That's the difference. And I mean, all you're gonna do is if you send black people out of the country is give us a free vacation. Like, oh, where we going? Oh, you sending us to where? Ghana, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Cameroon, Benin. All right, bet. Okay, like sending us like you send us overseas. That don't threaten me with a good time. It's okay. Don't threaten me with a good time. But yeah, so 500,000 Haitians are getting the axe. And here's another thing about that. As I mentioned in my YouTube short, we found out a lot of these Haitians were were full of shit. And this is not all Haitians. I have friends who are Haitians from college, several of which I'm quite fond of. You know, one that I dated, kind of, sort of. A few that were really close friends and roommates, or well, housemates. Um, some that I was um, became friends with in Greek life. So this is not aiming at every individual Haitian. Don't take it that way. I'm aiming this at the Haitian community at large who have shown disrespect to Black Americans. Um, if they're sending 500,000 of you back, you're criminals because they're the only ones being targeted right now. Because there's like millions upon millions of illegal immigrants in this country. The only ones that Trump's administration has told ICE to target for right now are the ones who are wanted or convicted criminals. Like, so these people going back are like criminals, and it's easy to see how. If you look at what's going on in their country, is it's a failed state and it's war torn with a whole bunch of uh, gangland activity and warlords. And like I said, when you travel, so a lot of brothers like to go to the Dominican Republic because of the beautiful women and the Latino culture. And they notice they don't like Haitians. And so originally a lot of people thought the Dominicans didn't like Haitians out of racism. But that's not true. Because the thing is, when you actually go to Dominican Republic, a lot of the Dominicans are just as chocolate as we are, and the Haitians. The reason so although there is colorism that goes on in Dominican Republic because of they are a lot Latino culture. There's a lot of colorism in Latino culture. Let's not kid ourselves. But another one of the reasons they don't like Haitians not isn't the color issue, because a lot of them are quite fond of Black Americans. The reason they don't like Haitians over there is because they don't want them coming into their country bringing all that rah rah, all that they don't want them bringing all that warlike animosity into their country. That's why they don't want them there. They don't want them bringing all that gang activity. Like I said, Haiti is a failed state. Like, they want to pride themselves on being the first to liberate themselves from slavery 250 years ago or whatever. And it's like, yeah, cool, but your island has been shit ever since, and you can't just blame it on European conquest. At some point, you got to point the fingers back at yourself and say, what are we doing wrong in our own country? Corruption, violence, you know, and you can't blame that all on colonialism because you haven't been a colony since you liberated yourself back in the late 1700s. So, um, I, I don't know. And like I said, you go to the Dominican Republic and you see it's like dark skinned people there. It's like, well, they don't like them because they're dark skinned. They don't like them because they're scared they're gonna come here and be ratchet. Similar with here in America, like a lot of people don't want people coming into their community not because of their color, but because they're thinking they're gonna bring ratchetness with them. Because Black people don't like it either. They don't want ratchet people coming into their community being all messed up. So that's what's going on between that divisiveness between Haiti and Dominican Republic, because they're both on the same island of Hispaniola. Uh, Jamaicans, a mass there was a mass deportation of Jamaicans by Trump as well. And again, these were unwanted folks. These weren't just innocent citizens. they were they were illegal. You know, a lot of them were illegal immigrants. A lot of them, and almost all of them were like criminals. And we noticed because the freaking prime minister of Jamaica himself went on went on air in Jamaica and told these people. He said, "Look, Jamaica is your homeland. You're always welcome here." He said, "But I'm telling you right now, if you when you come back here, you are going to abide by our laws." He said, "Because if you don't abide by our laws," he said, "you're going to either, you know," he said, "you're going to either see our judges or you're going to see your maker." And this came from the words of the Jamaican prime minister. So we know that these people being sent back to their homes are not good people. Terry says, "Well, I did say Democrats were taking down the bad Democrats. Trump, Elon, Joe Rogan, and Trump's entire team are former Democrats taking down the bad Democrats." Yeah, so you bring up a really good point, Terry. Is that the irony of these people calling these MAGA guys white supremacists and the fringe right and extremists is ironic because almost all these guys used to be on the Democratic side. Joe Rogan was a Bernie supporter, like I was. Trump was a Trump was a card carrying Democrat. He even went to Chelsea Clinton's wedding. He was at Chelsea Clinton's wedding. He, Whoopi Goldberg talks a lot of shit about him on The View. They used to be good friends. He was he used to be friends with Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey once asked him like 30 something years ago to run for office, to run for president. Oprah Winfrey. Elon, either although Elon Musk is a libertarian, he was more he was more of a left leaning libertarian back in the day. People forget like the whole Tesla thing, which is the irony that a bunch of leftists are like um, vandalizing people's cars and burning them and trying to break into the dealerships and destroy the cars. Who do you think was originally buying electronic vehicles? It wasn't people on the right, it was people on the left. People 12 years ago, the left loved Elon Musk for the fact that he created Tesla and had these EVs because right leaning people weren't buying Teslas back then. That was a flex for elite leftists and liberals. So that is a very good point that a lot of these people who are considered extreme right wing were former Democrats, or if not former Democrats, former liberals. That's a good point. He said KKK was created by the Democratic Party. That is true. Now, I'll be, at least I'll be fair and say that that was a different era of the Democratic Party. So I will be fair, but you're absolutely right. And they were the ones who fought for the Confederacy as well. So, I mean, when you're right, you're right. But I will say, just to be fair, that that was a different era of the Democratic Party. Obviously, both parties have have changed in their political leanings over time, right? So, but you're right, and a lot of those very right wing Democrats still exist in the Democratic Party today. By the way, but they often call them, I believe, like Dixiecrats or blue dog Democrats or something to that effect. But they still exist in the Democratic Party. They never fully left. It's just that a lot of them became, over time, a lot of them switched to the Republican Party or became independents. But some of them, especially ones who hold office, stayed card carrying Democrats just because of the political makeup of their districts and the constituencies in their districts. Terry says, here's a fact. Obama sent back 17 million immigrants during his term. I'm not Democrat or Republican. I'm an American. Fair enough. Yes, he was called the deporter. That's another good point. I don't know the exact number. I don't know. So I don't know if you're correct on that exact number, but I do remember he did do mass deportations, so much so that they criticized him back then, calling him the deporter in chief. Um, Matt, and to double down on that, Terry, people don't remember during the 2008 presidential election, both Hillary and Obama in their speeches they made when they were stumping along the doing the electoral speeches, they were sounding a lot like MAGA with the stuff they were talking about. Like, look, they were talking about being tough on immigration, being tough on crime, um, being tough on trade, all the things that you hear now coming out of like Trump and his administration. These were things that Hillary and Obama were saying in their speeches back in 2008. Like, if people have very short memory when it comes to politics. Hey Sarah, what's up? I'm talking about deportations, tariffs, and Trump. I didn't even get to the tariffs part yet. You said 3 million give or take. Not a cult of personality. Okay. Terry says, I stand with a president that wants to help and give the best American dream. And call says, you think what happened? So, eh, the difference was with Obama was that he started trying to sound more like a progressive, even though he was never a progressive. But he got those people on his side because although he bailed out Wall Street instead of bailing out Main Street, he was the deporter in chief. He expanded our drone wars without congressional approval, okaying black operations that even Bush had did not approve during his during his terms in office, um, and you know bullied the colleges into accepting his expansion of Title IX for like gender specific stuff. Sort of like how people are accusing Trump of bullying campuses with removing federal funding from them if they you know if they're pushing this pro-Palestinian stuff. Obama did the same thing, except it was with withholding federal funding if they refused to take on his expansion of Title IX referring to certain gendered stuff. Um, but Agnes says, please like, share, and subscribe, guys, to Just A Contrarian. Drop a super chat. Thank you. Um, but yeah, despite Obama doing all that, it was cool because he had the skin of the oppressed, right? I don't feel oppressed, but whatever. But yeah, he had the skin of the oppressed. Mind you, he's not even a real black person, and I'm and I'll stand. I'm standing on business when I say that Obama's not black. He's just black adjacent. Cory Booker's more of a black person than he is, and he's lighter. And on that note, I'm gonna say right now, I'm gonna give a shout out to Cory Booker. I disagree with his politics, and I personally don't even like him. But at least what I do like is the exemplified black professionalism. He filibustered for over 25 hours in Congress over something I completely disagreed with him on. I think it was just stupid, but the fact that he now broke the record which was previously held by white supremacists who filibustered for 24 hours to try to stop the Civil Rights Act from being passed. He gets that respect, and he gets the respect because he's probably the only one in Congress young enough to do that. Because everyone else in Congress looks like they're on hospice care. So, um, let me get into the comments here. Sorry, guys. If if I'm scrolling up and down. Oh, Nautical says, don't forget Obama's hand in propaganda. Well, yeah, I mean, they all do a little propaganda type stuff, but I'm not sure which propaganda you're referring to because, like, here's another thing about him that's funny. People talk about, like, Trump representing the elite and the billionaires. When Obama bailed out the fucking banks, he bailed out the biggest banks in the world, saying they are too big to fail, but wouldn't do anything for regular Americans. Most of the people he staffed his administration with were people recommended from Wall Street, with like Larry Summers and Eric Holden and all these folks, right? Um, and don't and if people don't remember the movement Occupy Wall Street, that happened under Obama. That didn't happen under Trump. Occupy Wall Street, that movement, that happened under Obama. So people forgot about the Occupy Wall Street thing. That happened under him. Terry says, I also believe that Edward Snowden is a hero. With him started all of this exposure that will keep going on until completion. Subscribe. Thanks, Terry. I appreciate it, brother. So I'm of a mixed mind of Snowden. Like, on one hand, being a whistleblower would give you sort of like a hero status, but the fact that but having a military background, seeing someone, you know, do something like that, it's a, like this former CIA agent. I think his name is it Andrew Bustamante? I think that's his name. But when he was talking about Snowden, he gave good reasons why it that that what he did was not great. I mean, yes, we do need government whistleblowers, but at the same time, when you are when you are in the intelligence community or in the military, there's just certain things you're supposed to do and not do. So I'm of a mixed mind with Edward Snowden. If that's fair, right? Not because it used to get votes. Yeah. She says, yes, they do. Terry says, I stand with the people because the people make America and it's why it's great. Fair enough. Not a cult says he did what he was told. That's the issue. Yeah, I mean, there was some speculation that after he was invited to the Bilderberg um, um, meetings, which are very secretive and um, only the most elite people get invited to these Bilderberg annual meetings. Um, that's probably where that maybe some of his policies and the people he put in position um, during his administration may have been things that may have been suggested to him through that Bilderberg meeting. But that would be just pure speculation at this point. I can't confirm or deny anything because I don't know anything about Bilderberg meetings, what goes on there, what policy agendas they set there, if any. So They say Obama birthed the Tea Party. Yeah, well, yes and no. The Tea Party was sort of, I mean, the Tea Party was sort of like the precursor to 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 MAGA. And the thing that was inauthentic about the Tea Party was that a lot of it was funded by right leaning think tanks like the Heritage Foundation and stuff like that, and the what they call them, the what are those guys, the something brothers, the what are the names, not the Brook, the Koch, the Koch brothers. So a lot of the Tea Party stuff came off as disingenuous because it was made to look like this was a grassroots organization like Occupy Wall Street, but a lot of the funding and um, initiatives for the Tea Party came out of some right leaning think tanks and right wing um, um, super PACs and stuff like that. So, but you could probably say it about Occupy Wall Street that some of that was probably funded by some left leaning folks as well. But so I can't say that I can't say that Occupy Wall Street was probably a more authentic grassroots movement than the Tea Party. What I will say is that I think both of them had backings from very powerful people, both of both of whom disagree with Obama, but they just the folks disagreeing with him came from two different spectrums of the political ideology. You had people who were like staunchly conservative that disagree with him, obviously, and they probably were the ones who backed the Tea Party, right? And then on the left, you had some people who were progressives and far leftists who were backing uh, all those kids and students that were out there protesting on behalf of Occupy Wall Street. Terry says if you take red ants and black ants and put them in a jar, nothing happens. If you shake it up, they kill each other. um, yes and no. What? Being someone who used to have an ant farm, I'll say this: if you take it, don't even they don't even have to be red and black. They can be black and black or red and red. The difference is that they come from two different colonies. Not going to go well because I think the people from each colony have a different scent marker or something like that. If I'm not mistaken. Sarah says that makes two of us. No idea about those meetings. Yeah, no one knows about the Bilderberg meetings. These are held in utter secrecy. The only people who know anything about the Bilderberg meetings are the people who've actually been there. And I think there are some probably some NDAs signed when you come there, um, so that there's the ultimate discretion. Like we know more about what goes on at a Freemason initiation than we know that what happens at a Bilderberg meeting. That's how secretive these things are. Um, Not a cult says the Tea Party was the beginning of change in the Republican Party, real change. Well, so the thing is, and I always have to explain this to some of my friends on the left because most of my friends are left leaning, right? Um, where, well, not, well, yeah, yeah. Well, I would say most of my friends I known in college are left leaning, whereas most of my friends now is more of a healthy mix, I think. But from my time in college, most of my friends are pretty left leaning, liberal, progressive. Some were socialist, matter of fact. And what I had to explain to them is the Republican Party, despite it being overwhelmingly white, is a very, although they may racially not be that diverse, when it comes to how they view politics, it is very diverse. And a lot of people don't get that about Republicans. Like people just use the term label Republican as a catch-all for anything they consider right-winged, when there's a whole spectrum of political ideas within the Republican Party. So like that's why like a lot of people know there's a bunch of never Trumper Republicans, right? And some of these people have been praised by the Democrats and people on the left as if they abandoned their party. These guys didn't abandon their party. It's just that they've always held these sorts of ideas. Okay, like there's like most of you guys know this because I'm thinking most of you are either moderates or right of center. But for the folks who don't know, who may be watching this, um, or my friends or whatever, like they don't know there's a lot of diversity of thought within the Republican base. You have, like I said, you have MAGA, but they think all Republicans are MAGA, and that's simply not true. You have, yes, you have your MAGA, then you still have some of the people, then you have the neocons, and I think the biggest division right now within the Republican Party is the neoconservatives versus the MAGA folks, right? And even MAGA is like a catch-all term for just for people who support Trump. Everyone who supports Trump doesn't hold the same ideology. Like I said, there's people like me who are former Bernie supporters who have voted for Trump now. So we were never MAGA, but we voted for Trump because we agree more of his ideas than what was coming out from the Democratic Party. Okay. Um, then on top of the neoconservatives, again, you have your moderates or center of right. Nowadays, being a moderate pushes you to the right because there's less tolerance for for diversity of opinion on the left. On the left, they force you into a purity test. Many liberals and definitely progressives have a purity test. Like if you don't check just about every box, you can't be a part of their club. So this is why I, being formerly being a progressive, have thoroughly abandoned being progressive and voting for Democrats because I see it as pro black, like brain programming, that every black person is supposed to vote Democrat and vote for ideas that's against their better interests just because the Democrats are the good folks, right? Uh, Now the closest that must be what the news said. I wouldn't know. But yeah, so then, like I said, you got neocons, you got the MAGA, you got your moderates, you have your libertarians. And some libertarians are more left leaning, some are more right leaning. Uh, then you have your fringe right, and the problem is everyone on the left thinks everyone is on the fringe right, and they're not. The fringe right may be made of people like supremacists, white supremacists, neo Nazis, um, militia groups, and and fascists. Although there's authoritarianism on both sides. This is another thing people on the Democratic side and on the liberal side don't get, is that there's both left wing authoritarianism and right wing authoritarianism. So that's another thing they don't get. Agus, I heard a lot of students over here talking about immigration at home, searching phone. Is that true? What do you mean searching phone? Well, again, so Agatha, you're overseas, and so those people are paranoid because of what they hear about Trump coming after immigrants. Two things to remind, two things to keep in mind. One is he's talking about illegal immigrants, and two, ICE has only been authorized to go after illegal immigrants who are wanted or convicted criminals. So if it doesn't fly, it doesn't. If that if that doesn't fly, um, I mean, if that doesn't apply, let it fly, right? If they If those people overseas are not illegal immigrants and they aren't criminals, then they have nothing to worry about. The other thing they're worried about, because you're in somewhere in the sinosphere right now, and I don't want to give out, your location if you don't want me to, unless you want to reveal it. But you being in the sinosphere somewhere right now, a lot of those folks know that there is, and we are in a cold war with the red state, right? And so right now, like my alma mater, right now I've been reading the campus news online. They they and a few other elite universities have been um uh de- have been given summons that they must give out information on their international students from that red state country, because what programs they are in and what access they have to like certain technologies and stuff like that, because we have a problem with a lot of our technology being stolen and taken over there, and espionage and that sort of stuff. But I'm not listening to the fear of people who don't know what's really going on. It just doesn't make sense. Is They have made it pretty clear since day one that they will be targeting illegal immigrants who are known criminals. So if that doesn't apply, let it fly. Those folks in the sinosphere, it would only apply to them if they are registered with the CCP, they are in the intel community for their country, um, or they are criminals. If they aren't within that mix, they are fine. Terry says our president is just a puppet until Trump, and it's hard for him, but God's will shall be done. Well, I I won't say presidents. All the presidents before Trump were puppets. All of them have their different agendas. Whether we agree with them or not is a different story. But yeah, all of them have their agendas. I mean, some might have said, people used to say that George W. Bush was a puppet, and that really it was Dick Cheney that was running the country like that. They were saying that through like most of his first term, and then by his second term, it seemed like Dick Cheney took a step back, maybe because that might have been maybe due to his medical problems. But during his first term, a lot of people kept criticizing George W. Bush for merely being a puppet for Dick Cheney. I remember that. Alex is why they're searching phones. I haven't heard anything about searching phones. I don't know what that means about searching phones. Again, who's making that allegation that they're searching phones? This I haven't heard this. So I can't say. Mm-mm-mm. Not a close as you prefer a one party system ninja. I don't know what stuff he's on, man. I just had to unsee his. I mean, I had to open up his messages to see what he was talking about. I don't even know what he's talking about. But he was already timed out inappropriately. So Alchemist says you still shopping at Target. I haven't recently shopped at anywhere, but I will shop at Target because it's better than going to Walmart. Walmart is ratchet. So, and I don't care about. I, I don't support some Al Sharpton ass fucking uh, boycott. You know what we need to boycott? We need to boycott Al Sharpton. This this little reverend pimp with his little slick back hair. Y'all don't remember. Some of y'all don't remember Al Sharpton from the 80s and 90s. This dude looked like a straight. He used to look like a straight up pimp. He was like a 300-pound dude with slick back hair, looking like a pimp, wearing a big ass cold chain and wearing a jogging suit. He looked like a he looked like a black mafiosi, and which is ironic because he actually did talk to a lot of to Italian mafia. Um, Frank, um, um, what's his name? Michael Francis will tell you that he has a YouTube channel here. Reverend Al Sharpton was a known snitch for the FBI. He was a CI for the FBI because he had once got got caught dealing drugs, and after doing so, he made a deal with the feds and became a confidential informant for the FBI. So fuck Al Sharpton and his boycott, or and anyone else. I'm not boycotting a store over some for what? It's never even been well articulated why we should do that. um, Michael says I have some problems with my what? Okay, this guy's a troll. If you're gonna say Mueller report, at least spell it well. I mean correctly. Terry says everything is called conspiracy until it becomes truth. Well, here's the issue with conspiracy theories, guys. You can't just calling something a conspiracy theory doesn't make it false. A conspiracy theory is like any any assertion. Uh, every assertion has one truth value. It's either true or it's false. Merely calling it a conspiracy theory doesn't make it false. You have to like have evidential reasons for why it's false or why it's true, right? Um, some conspiracy theories turn out to be true, some turn out to be false. That there was a plot to take down the government on September 11th, 2001. That was a conspiracy that turned out to be true. Now, it wasn't whom. Now, what often people mean when they say conspiracy theories, they is meaning that some that this is merely a speculation without any sort of in, without any sort of informing uh, sources to it, right? That, um, but again, just 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 to be like very pedantic, um, as far as like logic goes, any assertion is either going to have is going to have a truth value that's either true or false. So merely calling something a conspiracy theory doesn't falsify that claim. Just you have to still show why it's true or false, right? Um, and so Terry again makes a good point. Like everything is a conspiracy till it becomes truth, or in other words, what Terry is saying that you can make anything sound absurd, um, depending on how you frame it. But at the end of the day, it comes down to, do we have grounds for accepting or denying that claim? Agatha says on the news over there. Okay, so yeah, I haven't heard anything on the news here, Agatha. That's what I was saying. I haven't heard anything about them checking phones. So that's why I say I don't know what that applies to. But what I was saying is there has been some extra, um how do I put it? There's been some extra, um, looking into of certain folks out of the sinosphere because of fears of things going on with espionage and intelligence gathering and stealing of technology and other things related to that, right? But as far as them checking phones, I'm not sure why. If that becomes more well known here, I'm pretty sure I'll hear about it somewhere on the news because I have like probably like 20 different news sources that I check throughout the week on both left and the right. So I really don't miss anything because I check news that like I have news sources that are strictly international. Then I have news sources that are strictly local. Then I have some news sources that are just left leaning. Then I have some that are just right leaning. And then I have some that try to play it in the center. So I try to keep it well rounded because if you only get your news source from just one place, you're gonna miss out on a lot of other stuff. DJ Lewis, he said haven't heard, tuned in for a while. A lot of stuff going on. Yeah, true. Not so then it's probably false, Agatha. So I won't say what she's saying is false. She's saying she's hearing that news where she is. She's overseas. That's as much as I'll say, unless she wants to reveal where she is. But you know, because she's overseas, a lot of them probably have a lot of paranoia about what's coming going on here in America. What they don't know is that a lot of the initiatives going on here about against against people migrating here to the U.S. Is pertaining strictly to illegal immigrants and to people who are not just illegal immigrants but are wanted for crimes or have been previously convicted of crimes, because the previous administration let in a lot of people on temporary status who already were convicted of serious crimes and allowed to run amok throughout the country. Michael mentions a congressional investigation. He said, "Yeah, I know Al Sharpton." Yeah, yeah, I don't take the so I forgot who mentioned it in the above in the chat in the comments, but yeah, I first of all I haven't gone shopping in a long time anyway, and when I do shop, it's mostly off Amazon or eBay. To be honest, if I can't get it at the local mall, I don't because I don't really spend that much money, except when I'm overseas. Because I have a wife, so I have a budget. And the most you see me buying is like collectibles, food, comic books, or like sometimes some clothes. And I really don't buy a lot of clothes. I literally just wear my clothes until they fall off, to like they're too ragged to wear. The most you'll see me buying um, the most often are sneakers because I run every day, so I have to replace my sneakers like every 2 or 3 months. Other than that, I don't really shop. I don't have money to go out shopping like that. So the point of the boycotting Target or any other place to me is asinine because I'm not shopping like that anyway. Um, Nautical says he termed the phrase African American. Are you who did? Are you referring to Al Sharpton? I don't think he was the first to use the term African American because it used to be like the term used to be more Afro American. I think like in the 70s and 80s, and then people just preferred saying African American. But I remember back in the day, like late 70s, early 80s, the people used to more often say Afro American. It's probably a term none of you've heard in a long time, right? Afro American. Um, but most of us prefer just being called black to African or Afro American, especially since African American is a misleading term since you can be from Africa and not be black. Like Elon Musk, he's technically an African American. Michael says, but Trump teams up with Russia. Um, well, look, I won't say he teams up with Russia, but at the end of the day, when you are the leader, when you when you are a world leader, and not just a world leader, but you are the leader of the most powerful country in the world, you have to talk with people. Like refusing, like Biden did, just to not talk with Russia. That's not productive. It's not productive. Like, or like I said, well, I should say, allegedly Biden not talking with President Putin. Like that's not productive. Like when you are the leader of the free world, so to speak, like you have to talk with people even whom you don't like, because that is the responsibilities of being the leader of the most powerful nation in the world. Like you can't say, well, I'm not going to talk to these people because we don't like what they do. So like that's immature. Like for some reason there's a lack of political finesse in international politics as there is with domestic politics. Sarah says, I think they're referencing boycotting Target because they put out a statement about not supporting vets. That's all I know. Oh, I didn't hear about the supporting vets thing. It was all about no. It was they're referencing the black thing, Sarah. Like there was a thing 2 months ago where black people said they were going to boycott Target, and I know this because I actually shared on my Instagram. And by the way, you guys can go to my Instagram if you like to. It's called Amon Just A Contrarian. Um, I just put like silly stuff on there. Like it's nothing serious up there. I just put up a lot of silly stuff. But anyway, they, I didn't even know about the boycott until I saw black people making jokes about other black people shopping there because it's supposed to be a black boycott specifically. And so like when I shared a meme of a of a crow wearing a kufi hat. Like if you guys know Dr. Umar, he wears the little kufis, the little the little um cloth crown, the kufi. And it was a crow, and the black person was walking to Target. He was like cocoon, cocoon, cocoon. Like so, yeah. It was a boycott amongst the black community, but it failed because most of the black community didn't care about this boycott because the boycott was silly for in the first place. So that was the boycott he was referencing. If there was another thing going on with vets, that's something separate. But the one that they had talked about specifically about 2 months ago was referring to a black boycott of Target, and I was never down with that because one, again, I don't shop that often, so I have no reason to boycott if I'm not even buying anything in the first place. That's like that's like someone who's fasting saying they're giving up pork, like right. So Sarah says something about not supporting the OIF war. I don't know the details. Yeah, that might be a separate thing, but the boycott he's referring to, I believe he's talking about the black boycott. Alex says look up like like sub and like every and um wait, am I saying it wrong? Like I'm messing up my own my, my own big ups here. Alex says like up the live, everyone. Thanks. I don't know why you keep putting Mueller report in exclamation points. make make a statement, but just blowing things up. That's not really did the Mueller there was problems with the Mueller report, and you're still spelling it incorrectly, by the way. Um, Not to be pedantic, but I am a pedantic person. not a not a close as oops, I get them mixed up. Jesse Jackson came up with the term African American. Oh yeah. Probably Jesse Jackson. Both of them are both of them Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, and some of these other guys, they are all so this is the way I see them, my analogy between Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton to Martin Luther King. So I'm a nerd, so I'll admit it. So I, I love comics, and back in the '90s when you had the death of Superman, I don't know if you guys remember that. The death of Superman was one of the best-selling comics ever, even though everyone mostly knew it was a gimmick. Like no one believed that Superman would stay dead in the comics forever, which he didn't. But he did for like a good year or so. And so after the death of Superman, you had the reign of the Supermen, right? And so after Superman died, you had a bunch of these little wannabes trying to take his place. Like you had like Cyborg Superman, you had a new Superboy, you had Steel, um, and another one. And so like they were all like little flavors of Superman, but not like Superman himself. And this is sort of like what happened after Martin Luther King died. You had a bunch of these little self-appointed civil rights leaders trying to basically like fill in the hole left by Martin Luther King. And this was like, and these were like people like Reverend Jesse Jackson, Reverend Al Sharpton, um, the that guy who was the former Atlanta mayor who died some years back, and that former um, and people like Elijah E. Cummings and stuff like that. All these folks, right? Um, but they weren't Dr. King, and Jesse really played up his part as being closely closely aligned with Dr. King to rise in his own importance as a politician. And remember, he even ran for president twice. As a matter of fact, when I was a little kid, I couldn't have been no older than 5 or 6. I went to my first presidential rally for Jesse Jackson. My mother took me there, and I've said the story many times, but I'm sure you guys haven't heard it before. And it was actually a white guy who picked me up and put me on his shoulders so that I could see Jesse Jackson talk. On so I've never so unlike some of my friends who always have this sort of awkwardness with other races, particularly with white people. I've never had that because I've all even grown up in predominantly black communities like Park Heights, Baltimore. Like I've always been comfortable around other folks. Um, and the funny thing is, when Jesse Jackson ran for office, guess who supported the man? I give you a hint. He's currently in office. Yes, Trump supported Jesse Jackson's presidential election back in I think it was like 1988. Well, I think he ran in 84 and 88, if I'm not mistaken. Trump supported his presidential he uh his election. I mean, sorry, not his election, his candidacy. He supported Jesse Jackson Jesse Jackson as a presidential candidate and gave money towards his campaign. Another thing, and this is the guy everyone wants to call Trump racist though. Guess what another thing that Trump did, right? When Nelson Mandela was freed from prison in South Africa, Trump chartered him a private jet to bring him to America in 1991. But this is the big racist guy, right? The big racist who nevertheless was friends with Whoopi Goldberg, who talks about him like a dog now on The View. The same one who was on Oprah Winfrey's talk show back in the day, and she actually told him he should one day run for office. He's like, I'll think about it. The same one that the Clintons hate, but he was at Chelsea Clinton's wedding. They invited him to Chelsea Clinton's wedding, and who was a card carrying Democrat at the time as well, and gave money to people both who were Democrats and Republicans. Oh, not to mention who was that famous singer? What is her name? The chubby black lady. She has a talk show now. When her family lost everything during the floods from Katrina, he put them up in Trump Towers for free. What is it? Jennifer? Is it Jennifer something? I can't remember, but he put them in his Trump Towers for free. But he's racist, right? Oh, he's also the one that did the prison reform. Obama didn't do prison reform. He got not that I like the rapper, but he got ASAP Rocky out of jail in the Netherlands when he was in office the first term too. He was actually on Twitter saying free ASAP Rocky. I've never seen a president on, on Twitter saying yo free my man's. I mean, he didn't literally say free my man's, but he did literally say free ASAP Rocky. I've never seen a president do that. But this is the racist bigot, right? DJ Lou says due process only for American citizens. So that's what I was bringing up in my YouTube short, DJ Lou. So no, due process is actually we actually have a constitutional amendment. I think it's the. Can someone fact check me on this? I think the due process refers to the Seventh Amendment, if I'm not mistaken. So due process is for everyone, just because someone coming into court, you may not know whether they're an American citizen or not. So it kind of behooves our legal system to give everyone due process. However, not all facets of the court system apply to undocumented immigrants, right? So even though everyone technically gets due process, that doesn't mean all facets of it apply to non non-Americans, right? But presumably, yes, everyone does get due process. But again, I'm not a lawyer. Hashtag I'm not a lawyer. So someone can fact check me on that. I think like I don't think everything dealing with due process of can can apply to non-American um, and non-American um, folks. But technically, everyone gets due process in a court of law. That much I am sure of. Terry says, when I said Trump would be president and Elon would join him, I was told that I was crazy, etc. I just hear what God says at once. Oh. Here's another thing. So opposite to you, right? Back in 2007, I made the prediction that Obama would get elected to office, and I actually had some African guys doubting me. They was like, mind you, because Obama's half African and white. I'm Black American. They're African, and I'm telling these two African guys, I was like, Obama's gonna get elected, and they were looking at me just laughing. They was like, "Ain't no way, man." They was like, "It's gonna be Hillary." I was like, "All right." I was like, you know, I was like, if I don't see y'all again next year, I was like, just remember, I made this prediction, and I was right. And of course, the reason I was right was because, like I said, he talked in the language of a progressive, even though he wasn't a progressive. He was just another neoliberal politician. But he knew how to talk the talk of a progressive, which is what made a lot of people on the left love him. And that's why I knew he was going to get elected. He had because he had the ears of people who were more moderates, and he had the ear of people who considered themselves progressives and leftists. So Michael says Trump is only for Trump. Why do you keep saying Mueller report? That has no that has that has nothing pertaining to what we're talking about today. And the whole Russian collusion thing, no, excuse me, the whole so-called Russian collusion thing has been debunked. It has been literally debunked. So if you're saying the Mueller report to kind of allude to the fact that he's a Russian op, like he's a like that he's a stooge for the Russians or whatever, like that's been thoroughly debunked. Just like uh our other friend here in the chat room was talking about conspiracy theories and stuff like that. That is the whole Russian collusion thing is a conspiracy theory as well, but it's been debunked. Okay, and saying Trump is only for Trump. At the end of the day, most people are self-serving, especially politicians. That is not something that is sui generis of Trump. Most politicians, especially powerful ones, are self-serving to some degree. The question is, do the things they do are, will they still help the general population, right? Will they help will they help American citizens, even if there is a bit of self-serving bias in doing so? um, Terry says he is very much so. I've been telling what God says for many years and all comes to pass. But yeah, so like Terry and Michael are kind of going over what I just stated. No need for me to well, so Terry says in response to Michael calling out Trump as being this Russian colluder or whatever, he said that is foolish to say, like Trump working with Russia is a hoax proven, that Hillary paid millions to push, and yes, it went to the courts and proven false. Exactly. It was debunked, and we found out this was on Rising the Hill the other day, and no one's going to say that Rising the Hill is a right wing news media. It is not. Rising the Hill is center of left, and as a matter of fact, each every day they put on two hosts, one who's on the left and one who's on the right. Whether that's Robbie Suave, who usually represents either his libertarian or conservative leanings, then they'll have someone else representing a left leaning position, and that's it's changed over the years because some people have came and gone. Um, but it's also been shown that Hillary actually did act, literally pay out millions of dollars to 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 propagate this information. So that is true. And again, this is why I say I get my news from a plethora of sources, because there are things you're not going to get if you only looking at it from one side. If you're only looking at stuff on the left, you're going to miss out on a lot of things. If you're only looking at stuff from the right, you're going to miss out on a lot of things. If you're only looking at stuff from local news media, you're going to miss out on a lot of things that's going on, um, abroad. And if you're only looking at things internationally, of course, you're gonna miss out on what's going on right here in your community. So you gotta, I try to get glimpses of everything going on, and it gives me more to talk about when I'm here online with talking with you guys too. Terry says yes. Elon is. He's talking about when I was saying African American. This is why most African Americans prefer just saying black. And it's funny because when a lot of white people will address us, like I remember when I was in a frat house, and one of my homegirls, she came. I think she I think she came to to the frat house looking for me. I wasn't a member of their frat house, although they did offer me a bid to join, um, to to rush their fraternity, which I actually turned down because I was actually trying to join another one at the time. But in any case, so she came over there, and one of the guys was, and she was asking for me, and he was like, "Oh, you mean the African American?" She was like, "You could just say black." When she told me that, I just started laughing. I was like, "Yeah." Sarah says, "Good night, y'all. Take care and God bless." Good night, Sarah. I gotta see what Sarah looks like in real life. No, I'm just, Nautical, Michael says you should mature after puberty. But yeah, good night, Sarah. Um, like Terry and everyone else said. Terry says we are not black, white, Mexican, etc. We are God's people. Fair enough. Trisha. Oh, okay. I haven't seen you here before. I think she said her family was killed. Jennifer Hudson. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for clearing it up. Jennifer Hudson. Right. Thank you. And he put them up in Trump Towers. Um, the I don't think her whole family was deleted during the Katrina, the Hurricane Katrina, right? I thought it was like some of her family was left homeless during during the, the the Hurricane Katrina and the floods and stuff. That's that was my understanding. Maybe I'm wrong though. I don't know what SEA is talking about, so I'm not gonna even bother worrying about that. But yeah, thanks guys for telling me. It's Jennifer Hudson. And she has a talk show. That's what I remember because my mother watches the show. She lost a lot of weight too. And like I said, they want to call that man racist so bad, but he keeps doing things to defeat that narrative. Like how many times do you have to defeat a narrative until people stop using it? It's like it's like if someone calls you a vegan because they've heard that you never eat meat, but every time you see them, they got a burger or a slice of pizza or a piece of fried chicken. Like, how many times do you have to keep doing that till people realize, hey, he's not a vegan? Like, maybe that's not a good. I don't know. Maybe that's not a good analogy, but it but it seems a little apropos to me because it's like, how are you gonna keep calling someone a racist who keeps showing how friendly he is with the Black American community? Like he literally during Black History Month did a whole thing saying you guys is the most you guys are some of the most important people in America right now. You built this country. He literally said you guys built this country. Like I don't like how much disconfirming evidence do you need before you give up a claim? And I think it's sort of the whole it's sort of it goes to a certain cognitive bias, um, which is the belief effect. The problem so the cognitive bias, the belief effect is the phenomenon by which you hold a pre-existing belief, and no matter how much evidence or reason is presented to you for why that belief uh, isn't rational, you refuse to deny that belief, and it actually makes you hold on to that belief that much stronger because it was never a belief that you held on rational grounds in the first place. You held it for emotional reasons, and that's what I see what's going on with a lot of people holding on to this claim that Trump is a racist bigot because it's not it's not grounded it's not grounded in reason. So when you present them with reasons why that claim can't be supported, they just double down on it and this phenomenon is called the belief effect. Okay. Terry said Trump stood with the most famous boxer and gave him $10 million. He said, "Man, I can't remember his name. $10 million." Well, I have seen him with Tyson, but I don't think he gave him $10 million. Shoot, right now, I'll fight anyone if he give me $10 million. I'm serious. I'll shoot. Who's out there right now? I don't care if they're a heavyweight. I can I run. I can run around the ring for 45 minutes for $10 million. Shoot. Now I'll even take one punch. One. But, Egon says, I regret voting for Trump for two reasons. He's allowing those people to be deleted in Gaza, and he's interfering with South African affairs pertaining to land being taken back from colonizers. Um, well, I mean, so sometimes people have voters' remorse. I have voters' remorse for voting for Biden back in 2020. So yeah, voters' remorse happens. Um, as far as Gaza, eh, that's not. I've already kind of made it clear I have a pro Israeli stance. One, because being pro Israel um, is 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 consistent with certain American ideals that I hold, and also because um, I think they have the better claim. I think they have the better claim. Now, but I'm not against for people being non-combatants being hurt or deleted. Don't so I want to make that clear. I'm not for anyone getting hurt that shouldn't be hurt on either side, right? Excuse me. But when it comes to where I stand, I do stand with the Israeli folks. Also, a third reason is because in the history of civil rights, blacks blacks and Jewish people a have had an alliance in the history of America and the civil rights here in America. And a fourth reason, if I really want to go there, and I am going to go there, but a fourth reason is that the Arab world has been supportive of Black African slavery even till this day. Like, and if you think I'm joking, the North African country of Mauritania literally didn't start, um, literally didn't criminalize slavery until 2007. And I'm not joking. You can fact check me on that. Mauritania did not criminalize slavery until 2007. The Arab world has enslaved more black people than Europe did. In fact, the Arab world enslaved a lot of Europeans as well. If you heard of the Barbary slavery trade off the Barbary coast, and they're still doing it today. Like, um, it's I mean, it's illegal now, but it still happens. And they even do it with Southeast Asians. Like, they're at one point, the previous president Rodrigo Duterte of the Philippines was going to stop allowing overseas Filipino worker programs to the Middle East because of the treatment that some of Filipino workers were getting there. They were being treated like slaves in those countries and abused. And this applies to some of those Palestinian folks too. So that's so for all these reasons, again, I am pro-Israeli, but I don't agree with non-combatants being unalived or harmed. I think we are in a time today where we can make war without targeting non-combatants. Once you start intentionally, and I'm not talking about accidentally, as in collateral damage. I'm talking about intentionally. Once you start intentionally targeting non-combatants, innocent folks, you've lost a lot of justification for your cause. And like I said, although there has been collateral damage on both sides, where I see intentional non-combatants being unalived has been on the Palestinian side because of their support of Hamas and Hezbollah and some other extremist groups that are fighting along with each other, like the Houthis. So that's all I'll say about that. As far I don't know too much about the South African affairs, though. To be honest, I don't know too much to comment on that. Oh, hey, Mrs. Contrarian, I didn't even see you here. The wifey is here, guys. Please say hi to Mrs. Contrarian if she's here. She says hi, Mahal. Hi, everyone. Just making a quick stop here. Yeah, she's working, guys, so she's just making a little pit stop. Um, Nautical says Trump magically became racist in 2016. I know, Nautical. Yo, this. Do you know how many people have brought this up? Like all, and what makes it worse, bro, is that the people, all his ops used to be people who used to be his friends. Well, not all of them, but a lot of these people who are his biggest ops used to be his friends. Again, Hillary, Bill, and Hillary used to be good friends with Trump. They used to actually hang out. They he was at Chelsea Clinton's wedding. Whoopi Goldberg, who talks about that man like a dog every day on The View, she used to be good friends with him. And if you guys don't believe me, just Google it and you'll find old pictures of them together smiling when he had his show The Apprentice. That they were good friends. Um, Oprah Winfrey, they were friends. Like he was literally on her talk show when she was like, "You should run for president one day." He was like, "I'll think about it." This is back in the '90s, but the once you decide because he chose to run as a Republican and he talked shit about Obama, that's when he was magically a racist, magically delicious. But yeah, all of a sudden he's racist in 2016 because he said something slick out his mouth about Obama as far as his citizenship. And let's be clear, I'll be fair. Trump was definitely wrong to support that birtherism conspiracy against Obama because it has been debunked, right? And like I said, I'm fair, so I can say stuff has been debunked on the left, stuff has been debunked on the right. Okay, I'm fair, but yeah, the birtherism thing that came out was debunked, and he supported that. That's when they started calling him a racist because he supported the birtherism thing. But here's the thing: it wasn't just racist people who thought the whole birtherism thing. There was a lot of people. Now, let me get some water. Sorry. I didn't even get to the tariffs yet, but guys. Uh, okay, that's a little better. Check, check, check. But yeah, so it was because of his support for the birtherism was when he suddenly became racist, right? And like I said, he was wrong about the birtherism thing. But here's something I'm going to say that's very controversial. He Obama's beginnings is what led gave rise to the birtherism thing because let's be completely guys, let's be completely honest here. Most of us don't really consider Hawaii a state. Let's just let's just be honest. Hawaii is a glorified colony. I'm just going to say it. Hawaii is a glorified colony. It's not part of the continental US. Now, Alaska is not part of the continental U.S. either, but at least it's connected by land to the U.S. Like you can actually drive through Canada up to Alaska to a certain point. I mean, but um, but when Hawaii is like a state that's literally 6,000 miles away and only through overseas travel, yeah. And then what made it worse is, okay, he lives in Hawaii, and again, first of all, I'm going to say Hawaii is barely a goddamn state. I don't care if I hurt Hawaiians' feelings. Hawaiians, I love you, but you're barely a state. I'm just saying. Like you're like right next to Guam. Like you're about as much of a state as Guam is. Seriously, and we have a military base in Guam as well, and some pretty good looking people. I once dated a Guamian chick. Is it Guamanian, whatever. Hot. Anyway, moving on. So, Mrs. Contrarian, sorry. Anyway, um, but that would, to be fair, that was like 24 years ago. But on top of that, like his father was a Kenyan immigrant who married his uh, white American mom, and then after he clapped cheeks, he pretty much went back to Africa. And then his mother remarried an Indonesian man, and he actually lived in Indonesia for a while. He's actually fluent in Bahasa Indonesian language. Like I don't know if you guys remember when he was in office, he actually went to Indonesia and he was talking to the people in their language. These are the sort of things that led to the birtherism conspiracy. Um, and then the reason why a lot of black folks feel kind of nonplussed about Obama was that he was never really part of the black community. Like he was black adjacent, but his father was a Kenyan immigrant, so he had no connections with the black American community. His mom was white, and he lived in Hawaii. There's again, I'm I love you Hawaiian people, but there's really no black community in Hawaii outside of on the military bases. The most black people you'll see in Hawaii are in the military. They probably have a lot of fun there. I've known some people who were stationed there. They liked it. Well, unless they were infantry, but whatever. Anyway, but the most black people you'll see in Hawaii are stationed there in the military. There's not like a black community, and he even when he came to the states for college, he wasn't in the black community. He first went to Occidental College in California, not a black community. Then he transferred to Columbia University in New York City. Probably a few more black people, but again, not a black community. He literally didn't get enmeshed in a black community until after he graduated college at Columbia and worked a few years as a community activist in Chicago, which is a whatever. He was a community activist, but as a community activist, you're more like an outsider than an insider, right? Like it's like being a becoming a community activist in a community that you were never a part of is like going to volunteer for the we call it the Peace Corps. It's like you're being sent to some random place in in Cambodia as a member of Peace Corps. That's like, yeah, you're working there with the people like in the actual grind, but you're not of the community. And it's sort of the same thing with him being a community activist in Chicago for a few years before he decided to go to Harvard Law. Like he was never a part of that community. And so this is why even some black people were saying this guy's not American. but to call but to call Trump a racist for allying himself with the birtherism movement or the birtherism conspiracy doesn't make him a racist. I mean, no one considers people who doubted. I don't know if people remember this, but at the same time that people were trying to say that Obama was an American, there were some people saying John McCain wasn't either. Remember Senator John McCain? He was born on a naval base outside of America. And so a lot of people were trying to say he wasn't a true American either. But he was, one, because he was born to American parents, and two, because if you're on an American military base out of the country, you're still born, still considered being born on American soil. But people don't forget that when they were challenging Obama's like American citizenship, there were some people trying to challenge John McCain's American citizenship too. I don't think people remember that. Again, I don't have short-term memory problems when it comes to politics like some people do. Sorry, I know that was a long hog right there. Agnes says we are about to board our American Airlines flight. Good night. Wish us safe flight. See you back in the States later. Have a good time. I was gonna tell you when you were still in that country that you were in that you should try a knife massage, but I forgot to tell you that. Sorry. If you go back, you guys should try a knife massage. I didn't try one yet either. If I'm daring enough, I'll try it when I go. But have a safe flight. Terry says Tyson. That's right. He said yeah. He gave him 10 million after he was released from prison. Are you serious? I never. That might be why Tyson supported him. But I never heard that he gave him $10 million. So maybe that's true. I don't even know, but I do know that Tyson supported him because he was like when he was building up to his fight with Jake Paul last year. I remember him talking about being in support of Trump, and I do remember seeing old pictures of them together. I saw it was like Mike Tyson, Donald Trump, and Don King like all hanging out together. Davey says boycott American goods. Don't go to USA. Okay, have good luck with that. Good luck with that. Hold up, I think I got a message here. Hold up, guys. Give me one sec. Yep, yep. That was the message from wifey telling me she would. Are you still here, Mrs. Contrarian? But yeah. The funny thing is, I mean, I don't know what you mean by American goods, but most most of American goods are actually imported. So we get them from China. Terry says Trump is just trying to even out the trades. Yeah, so thank you, Terry. So that brings me to the second thing from deportations is to tariffs. Everyone has an opinion about tariffs, and mostly everyone is wrong. Everyone's saying it's going to hurt Americans. If that were the case, then they wouldn't be an effective threat, would they? And if they were only, and here's the like people have to realize it's not that clear cut. Yes, I do understand that tariffs would actually raise the prices on things for us. I do understand that, but again, it's not that clear cut. Tariffs is can be a strategic thing because if they were only hurting ourselves, then then obviously these other countries wouldn't care if we levy tariffs against their goods. But instead, they've levied tariffs against our goods as well. So if they're levying tariffs against our goods when we levy tariffs on their goods, obviously it's something about tariffs that does hurt them, right? Obviously so. And I think a lot of people have been misled from these importer exporters guys. First of all, let me be crystal clear. I didn't even know importer exporter was an actual job. I literally thought that was something made up by George Costanza on Seinfeld. I'm gonna be I'm gonna be completely honest. Like I thought George Costanza made up the whole importer exporter thing on Seinfeld to try to sound important when he didn't want to talk about being unemployed. He said, "I'm an importer exporter." Because remember, he was like, "Well, I'm an importer." He said, "Oh, you are?" He said, "And an exporter." He said, "Which one are you, importer, exporter?" He said, "I know I'm both. I'm an importer, exporter." So I literally thought that was a completely made up job until I found out there are actually people who are importer, exporters. But here's the thing: a lot of them saying that the tariffs will only hurt Americans are being self-serving. The reason they're saying that is because it's the importers and exporters who pay for these goods to come into the country. So it's going to hurt them. And they, but that's not, but that's the quiet part they keep. That's that's the quiet part they don't say out loud. A lot of these importers and exporters who go online, who try to give these, who try to give these little pithy tutorials to us stupid regular average people on how tariffs work on TikTok and Instagram, saying uh, Trump raising putting tariffs on these goods would just hurt you, would just hurt all of us, hurt all of you guys. It's not going to hurt the other countries. I was like, well, if that was simply the case, then why have a lot of countries backed down when he threatened to put tariffs on them? And if he was merely bluffing, as some people say, well, he's bluffing, and once they realize he's bluffing, then they're not gonna respond anymore. So again, let's say he is bluffing. So let's take that route and say, for the sake of argument, he's just bluffing on that, and that could be the case. If he is just bluffing, but they don't know it yet, then why are they responding in the way that he wants if it will only hurt us in the process? Does that make sense? Like, if you and I, like, and this applies to anyone in the chat room, right? I'm not being violent, but just I'm just making this analogy, okay? So if if you and I get into a disagreement and I threaten to punch myself in the face, why would you care? Why would you be like, please don't do that? I mean it. I'm gonna punch myself in the face so hard. No one's ever punched himself in the face this hard before. I it's this be a truly a thing to be seen. You don't want to see this. You've been playing. You've been getting on my last nerve for the past 15 minutes. I swear, if you keep getting on my nerves, I'm gonna punch myself in the face. Like, why would you care, right? How would that be an effective strategy to say I'm gonna punch myself in the face if you keep bothering me? That doesn't make sense, does it? So when people act like it's such a dry cut, it's so dry and cut that the tariffs are just taxes on imported goods that's going to only affect Americans. Obviously, that's not the whole story. Because if that were the whole story, if we were just threatening, if the president was just threatening to hurt American citizens, other countries wouldn't care and they wouldn't respond. Remember when, so for instance, when Venezuela refused to take back their, what's up, cat? So when America was sending Venezuelan immigrants back to their country and Venezuela refused to take them back, um, Trump immediately threatened them with a 50% tariff. And so they rescinded not taking them back. I mean, they rescinded um, refusing to take them back, and they did take them back. So again, if 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 the tariffs are just taxes on Americans, right? Then why would Venezuela then concede and let and then allow their the the deep the deportees to come back to them? like it, like obviously there's something about tariffs that would help hurt the other nation as well. And part of what will hurt that nation, I'm assuming, is the fact that they therefore can't sell their goods in that country because people aren't going to be willing to pay a higher price for them. That's the part of the thing that the importers and exporters leave out the equation. Yes, it will raise prices on Americans, but as a result, a lot less of those imports will be sold in our country, which would then hurt that country. But the importer exporter won't tell you that. And again, I really didn't know that was a real job. I thought that was something George Costanza made up. Ryan said that means they lose money. They go on to make bud. Exactly. Exactly. So Ryan. No, so I'm just trying to say like how everyone who never took one class in economics in either high school or college now thinks they're an expert because someone on MSNBC told them the tariffs only hurt Americans, or they heard it on The View, or they saw it on the Young Turks. Like, if they only hurt us, then they wouldn't be effective. Again, it's the same as saying we're gonna like we're beefing with each other, and we're beefing with each other. We're yelling and cursing at each other, and I say if you keep on, I'm gonna hit myself in the face. How would that how would that hurt you if I'm hitting myself in the face? That wouldn't make sense, would it? So that's the same thing as saying tariffs only hurt Americans. There is some strategy behind it. I'm not saying it's a good strategy, but it's actually a good strategy. Cass says I don't blame Trump. He is looking after his country's best interests. He said I wish our leaders would have the balls to do the same. Eh, I don't know anything about Australian politics. Only thing I knew about Australian politics was some of the stuff that was going on between them and the red state. So that's the so guys. Here's the thing. So I saw this on another YouTube channel. I don't want to mention them just because the name of it is the name of that country. That's part of their YouTube uh, title. But the the host of that channel, I'm just gonna say the second part of it's called uncensored. So it's red. It's the country that is symbolized by my term, the red state, and then the last word is uncensored. I highly recommend that channel. So he was saying anytime you want to refer to that country, instead of actually saying that country, just leave a honeypot emoji for obvious reasons that certain leaders have been said to look like a certain Disney character who likes honey and eats it out of a honey jar. So he was saying anytime you want to refer to that country, just leave the honey pot emoji and people will know what you mean. So but yeah, so if but again, like I said, I'm not going to pretend that I understand the tariffs, but the folks who claim that they do understand how the tariffs are being used in as far as a tool of for a tool of political leverage, I think either are mistaken or lying. That's what I say. I said the people. So the people who claim that they know for a fact that terrorists only hurt us and they can't be used as a tool of political leverage against another country are either mistaken or they're lying. Because obviously they can be used as a tool of political leverage. Now, I'm not saying it is a well thought out strategy. I'm not claiming that, but obviously it doesn't just hurt Americans because if it only just hurt Americans, it wouldn't be a good tool. Like I said, it would be akin to getting into a an argument with someone and then threatening to punch yourself in the face instead of punching them. Like all right, you yell in my face again, I'm gonna punch myself in the face. Keep playing, keep playing, keep playing. Like it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't. Now, what would be more like the terrorists would be like threatening to headbutt someone. That's gonna hurt both you and that person. Well, depending on if you don't know how to do the headbutt correctly, it will hurt you as well. So free self defense tip, guys. When you in real close with someone, like when people get literally all in your face like this, like nose to nose sort of thing, headbutt them, but not with your forehead, with the crown of your head. This is the hardest part of your skull right here. You come in and you blink. So if you do a headbutt correctly, it will only affect them. But if you do it incorrectly, it will hurt both of you. So like tariffs. If you do it incorrectly, it's going to hurt both of you. The more you know. And I know a little bit about headbutts because we do it in Filipino martial arts. um, in Filipino martial arts, there's a style called panantukan, which is basically it's Filipino dirty boxing. Kat says we have an election early next month, so this is factoring heavily into it. I see. And the good thing about your elections is they don't let your election cycle doesn't last 2 years like ours do. Uh, That's the most frustrating about American electoral politics is that our presidential elections last like 2 years. Won't let name the character. I can't say it. Anonymous says I wasn't a fan of how Australia handled their citizens during COVID. I wasn't a fan of how we treated some of our citizens during COVID though, bro. Like depending on what state you lived in, California and New York handled it really poorly. Maryland, uh, Ma- Maryland was more fair. Like I remember in 2020 and early 2021, that was the most time I ever saw people jogging in my life, and I run every day, so it was suddenly like funny how I saw all these people outside, but I actually enjoyed it. I was like, this is a great thing. Like I enjoy seeing a lot of people outside. And I think that's how a lot of my neighbors know me in the community now because they know me as the guy who runs every day. Like I've literally had people, come up to me and say that I inspired them to go running or jogging. Um, but during COVID in other states like California and New York, they were literally telling people not to go outside and run and jog because they could spread COVID to other people. Like how you're running, like even if you were running as a group, you guys aren't that close to each other where you're going to be like just passing germs to each other in the open air. Like the best thing to do would be to go out and like to tell people they shouldn't be going into parks, not going for a jog and getting fresh air was like the worst advice because that was like one of the best things you could actually do was to go out and get fresh air, go out for a jog, go to the gym. I kept going to the gym too during COVID. Like, only thing they did was tell you to space yourself between the equipment. Like like if you're on the treadmill, like leave like I think it was like a space of like one or two treadmills between each person, and on the weight stations to not be in groups at the weight stations. But the gyms the gyms kept grinding, and guess what? At the end of the day, it was the people who kept going outside to get fresh air. It was the people going for jogs. It was the people still going to the gym. It was the people still going about their everyday business who were the healthiest people. The people who stayed inside, like just breathing that recycled air all day long. These were the people who probably had more health complications. So I wasn't a fan of how they did COVID here in America too, especially like I said, if you lived in one of these very blue states like California, New York. And like I said, Maryland is a very blue state too, but they did not ban people from like going outside and going to parks like they did in California and New York. Now they did close down some like children's they did close down some children's playgrounds in my community, and the kids were out of school learning online. I think that was a horrible thing they did to kids, making them do online distance education as opposed to going to schools. But uh, like Moonlit says, yeah, no one was a fan of that. The cast is nor am I. not a cult. Um, she said I heavily opposed it and protested. Yeah. Guys, Kat likes to go out and get fresh air. I don't think she minds me telling y'all that. Like, she likes to go out and go for a walk and get some fresh air. That is a healthy thing to do. To tell someone, no, we're gonna lock down and you can't go out and get fresh air. That's crazy. That's crazy. Like that, they were treating it like this was the Black Plague. And by the way, people didn't die of the Black Plague from going out to get fresh air either. So, Melissa says headbutt the like button. That's right, guys, and use the top of your head when you do it. I gave you guys a free self defense tip. Everybody gets one, like Spider Man says. Nautical says, "Don't you have to vote in Australia by law?" Oh, that's a good question for. I think so. I think what Nautical is asking is, do you have to opt out of voting as opposed to here you have to opt in? And people have been actually saying we should do that here in America, where once you turn 18, you're automatically opted in, and then you just have to opt out of voting. Whereas in a lot of countries who have higher voter participation, they have an opt out thing. So so when everyone comes of legal voting age, they're already opted in. Like they don't have to register to vote. Whereas here you have to register to vote here, but in other countries, instead of you having to register to vote, you have to opt out of voting. So, and because of that, there's usually a higher uh, voter participation in those countries. Uh, Donald Andrew said, "I'm Ozzy from Victoria." What's first of all, what's up, Donald? I don't think I've ever seen you here. You said from Victoria they made Melbourne a prison. I can believe it. But I thought, see, maybe I'm confusing you guys with, I don't know, maybe I'm confusing you guys with New Zealand or somewhere else, but I thought Australia had more reasonable measures. Well, I guess not. Cass is not a cult. Yeah, we do. If we don't, we will get it fined. Oh, Donald says, and I've had COVID twice. Um, he said, yeah, you got to vote by law here. But when you say you got to vote by law here, that does mean you can opt out, though, right? If I'm not mistaken, can't you opt out of voting? Um, and sorry you had COVID twice, man. Like I didn't have COVID once. At least if I did, it was I was unsymptomatic because I think there was a lot of people who may have gotten it and were completely non-symptomatic because I didn't have it yet, and there's still people catching it today. So that's why now they give it as a booster shot along with your during flu season. Now you get it with your flu shot now. Just like you get a flu booster every year now, or you're recommended to get a flu booster now. They give they give the COVID with it, and it's not, and that makes sense. It's just like I don't know. A lot of people realize with like when you get your flu shot, they're still giving you the shot for the bird flu with that too. Cass says Donald, me too, but have never and will never get the jab. So I got the jabs, guy. I got a booster. The reason I didn't care was just because when I was in the military, we got so many vaccinations. It just it wasn't it didn't affect me. And the funny thing is here in America, guys, people wanted to get there was people who objected to the vaccination just on purely political lines. Now there was some people who were consistent just saying I'm not going to get it, period. I don't care who's saying to get it. Now, even if I disagree with those people, at least I admire their consistency, right? At least they're consistent. But there were some people, and I'm gonna call it out, mostly on the left, who were inconsistent. So when the vaccination first came out, Trump was still in office, and people on the left were saying, "Well, I'm not going to take that. I don't trust Donald Trump. He don't know what he's doing with that vaccination." I'm like, guys, he didn't make he didn't develop the drug. Like that doesn't even make sense. But all the people on the left was like, I'm not taking that. I'm not taking that vaccination. I don't trust Trump. And then when he left office and Biden came into office, he was offering the exact same vaccinations through those three pharmaceutical providers, right? Then all of a sudden everyone was left with, no, it's your duty to get it, to get the vaccination, and you need to get a booster shot too. And I'm like, where was all that hoorah when the other man was in office? I was like, y'all realize it's the exact same thing, right? It's the exact same medication. The medication didn't change just because the president changed. And so that's the kind of that's the kind of dumbassery that that made COVID such a weird time. That and what people used to wear coming to the grocery stores as masks. That's a whole story in itself. But yeah, but even if I disagree with people not getting the vaccination, at least I admire not admire, but I respect anyone who was consistent in saying they weren't going to get it, regardless of who was advocating for the vaccination, whether it was the people on the home team or the people on the away team, right? Not a close as that's so authoritative. Yeah, like to tell people they have to vote. I've never heard of that. Like I was sure that there was a system in place in like Australia and other places that you can opt out of voting. If, maybe I'm mistaken though. Cass says we are a democracy in name only. Well, you can say that for a lot of places. Donald said that's why Australia and especially the state of Victoria are now called the nanny state. Mm. Now Nicole says I'm in Maryland. I live the state, but not its politics. I'm in Maryland, bro. I definitely welcome. Hope you come back to the live stream because since you're from Maryland, we need to talk about Wes Moore, Governor Wes Moore, and the Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott. I don't know what part of Maryland you're in, but both of these two jokers, and then the um, former prosecutor. What's her name? Marion. Uh, um, but yeah, that's a discussion for another day. We I want some people from Maryland that I can actually talk to about that. But he said I love the state, but not its politics. Gotcha. Cass says voting is compulsory in Australia. So I'm not a bad against. So I'm not mad at it being compulsory. I would be mad that you don't have a process where you can opt out and say like, so like if it's compulsory, like so like everyone like say like at the age 18 or whatever age it is. I don't know if it is 18 or not, but like say if everyone at the age of 18 is automatically enrolled in the voting uh, registry process, but if you decide, hey, I don't want to vote, then you can opt out. That would be fine. But if you're saying not only are you automatically entered into the voting system, but you are compelled to actually vote, or you'll get fined. Now that's a little crazy. That that definitely is obtrusive. I would say. Dallin says, "Thank you. I've always wondered about headbutts." He's I live in a very violent block. The suburb my block resides in is nice though. Yeah, every so the reason head just as a tangent, yeah, people always show headbutts wrongly in movies because it looks more exciting to see someone throw their head at someone, but that's literally not how you do it. You headbutt just the way you see rams and goats do it with the top of the head. See, they actually have skull fortified skulls that allow them to hit someone with their head as if it is like with 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 the amount of pressure, it would be like someone hitting you with like a bat, maybe worse, because they have these fortified skulls. We don't have fortified skulls, but the crown of your skull is the hardest part. And so when you, it's typically it's it's typically a technique for when someone is way too close to you So if trust me, if you're allowed to hitbot someone, they are clearly too close into your personal space, and you would use the top of your head and you would just jut it up like that. So you don't do this like you see Van Damme doing in his movies. I don't know why he always show himself headbutting people like that. You don't do that. You hit with the crown of your head and you just shoot up. So like if someone's like all in your face and you just bend your head down and go, that's how you do them. Carlton, wait, what's up? He says peace. Mona says no, they have to vote. Yeah, so I'm that's what I'm the picture I'm getting from Donald and Kat is that they actually have to vote. That is crazy. Or you get fined. I think the difference though is they do give them like a actual holiday to vote. We don't have a holiday to vote. They just say, "Here's this is electoral day, and you guys are allowed to your by law your employer has to allow you time to go vote." But if that's the case, just make it a holiday, and it would be so much easier. That's why I always do early voting because with early voting, I can do it on any day I want, including on Saturdays. And I can go, say, like on a Saturday, if I'm off work on a Saturday, because sometimes I work Saturdays. But if I'm off work on a Saturday, I can just go on a Saturday doing early voting. So I do, so I enjoy that. But it would be easier if they just made it a holiday like they do in other countries. Now, because as we saw true colors during COVID, man, I gotta say, COVID was one of the most, it was, other than, the paranoia and a lot of stores closing. And one of the things I hated was a lot of my favorite Asian places were closing up because a lot of people, this is when the whole Asian hate thing came about because a lot of people were blaming Asians for COVID when they had nothing to do with it. Some people were like even blaming Chinese food. Like, dude, you don't like. I was like, see, this is how biology failed a lot of people. This is how public education failed a lot of people. You're not going to get a, you're not going to get a, a viral a viral infection from eating your favorite General Tso's chicken. Like, no, no. If you want to go to Panda Express, if you want to go to Golden China, if you want to go to the little mom and pop store down the street that you've been going to for the past 10 or 15 years to get you some General Tso chicken, some mushu pork, some wontons, that is not going to give you COVID. Like, but a lot of Asian restaurants, particularly Chinese takeout restaurants, closed back then. So you just saw a lot of dumbassery. And I made that word up, dumbassery. I think I made it up during COVID. You when they told everyone they needed to wear a mask, but it didn't have to be an actual N95 mask. It could be anything. People started wearing the dumbest shit I've ever seen. Like I literally saw people wearing like pantyhose, um, like yeah, pantyhose, socks. One dude, I went out to go run. This guy had on a freaking tactical. This guy had a fucking tactical gas mask on. I'm like, bro. I mean, I didn't say this literally to him. I'm looking at him like, bro, why are you wearing a tactical gas mask while you going out to run? Like, there's literally no one outside, and you out here with a tactical gas mask. Like that looks ridiculous. Like unless you are training. Now, sometimes people do like people in Army and Marines will actually go run with their tactical gas mask on as a training exercise. But other than that, I've never seen anyone wear a tactical gas mask just to go out for a jog. That looked so ridiculous. And you still have people today, even in 2025, still wearing masks while they're alone in their car. For what? And I was like, a lot of y'all just, I said, a lot of y'all just, I don't know. I was like, y'all must be afraid of yourselves or something. I don't know. I was like, personally, I don't want to wear a mask all day. I don't want to smell my own breath. I was like, but at least it might be a good reminder to some of you to brush your teeth. I remember saying that back in 2021. I was like, a good thing about y'all wearing these masks is going to remind some of y'all to brush your teeth because now y'all can smell what we smell. That was the only good thing about the mask. People started brushing their teeth because they could start smelling their own funky ass breath. Down says, no, you can do a vote where you don't vote for anybody, but if you don't vote, you'll be fine. So you can, that's still, it still defeats the purpose because you still have to go out and actually go through the process of voting. And I think the whole point of not voting is just not having to go through that process at all. But if you still got to go through the whole process of voting just to say, I vote for nobody, it's still inconvenient. Unless now, if you could vote from your phone, then fine. Like, um, but even still, they took instead of making voting a right, they made it a duty. That's crazy. For some, it's a privilege. For others, it's a right, and for you guys, it's a duty. that's 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 interesting. Because I've been jabbed, but I still got COVID for a second time. Yeah, like I said, I didn't have it to my knowledge, but like I said, I could have been non-symptomatic and never knew about it. Because the funny thing is, like, if you caught the cold or you got the flu back during 2020 and 2021, you didn't really know if you got the cold or flu or if you were just had a milder version of COVID because the COVID flu would have symptoms would have resembled those of a cold or a flu if it wasn't that if if it wasn't that strong. Cass says Donald, that's referred to as a donkey vote. Donkey vote. Melissa says, look, we were army, we got jabbed. Yeah, so like I said, when we went, so in the military, and I assume this applies to all branches, but I'm speaking specifically here for the army. When you went through reception, which is you had to go through reception before you went on to start boot camp. In reception, they went and inoculated us with a bunch of vaccinations, and they did it all at one time. Like we received, like like a dozen different vaccinations all at once. Like they just kept they jabbed us all at one time with like a dozen different medications. It was so funny because one girl passed out during the reception because some people don't like the sight of needles, and she was in line, literally passed out. And one of the sergeants roasted her so bad. That shit was funny. Like he's like, yeah, don't be like the girl over there just sitting there like, I'm gonna get my job. We cried laughing. That was so funny. And the funny thing is, I hated needles back then, but after getting vaccinated, you know, in reception, I no longer cared about getting, you know, drawing blood or getting flu shots or whatever, or getting any sort of drug shot because I had to go through it there. Like they had to draw blood, they had to give us vaccinations. I remember we even donated blood during reception, and they let us have the day off if we donated blood. So we donated blood, got some snacks, and got to chill for the rest of the day. So I was like, that's good for me. And Down said, yeah, cat. He said 2020. Carlton says 2020 was a wild year. Like I said, low key, it was kind of fun. The only thing I hate about 2020 was that I was outside of, I wasn't in the Philippines with my wife at the time, and because I was outside the country, they were making it really hard for Americans to come back into the Philippines. Now I had a little bit easier because I was married to a Philippine national, so I I for a person who is either a family member or a spouse of a Philippine national, they could come back into the country through the Balik Bayan visa, which basically means like family member or spouse. However, uh, even if you could come back into the country under the Balik Bayan visa, you still had to stay 2 weeks in a COVID hotel. You guys remember that? Any of you who've traveled, do you guys remember the COVID hotels back when we were traveling? You had to show your you had to show your COVID vaccination, and you had to get tested and wait in a COVID hotel for like 2 weeks before they would allow you to be in that country. And so there was in most countries there were specifically assigned hotels that you had to book in order to come to that country. And if you didn't, when you they wouldn't let you leave, the airport until you booked that COVID hotel. The problem was for most people who, you know, they don't have, like, for most people 2 weeks is their entire vacation. So if you had to spend 2 weeks in a COVID hotel, that was your entire vacation. So most people wasn't traveling at that time. Then they shortened it to like a week, but even still, a week or even 2 weeks is usually most people's travel time. Not to mention, it's going, like, if you're traveling all the way on the other side of the country, it's going to take you a day to get there and a day back. So you got to factor that into your trip. So if you only have 14 days of travel, you really only have you really only have 12 days in that country. And if you got to spend 14 of those days in a hotel, that's literally the entire trip. Even if you have to only spend, even when they reduced it to a week and it's only 7 days, again, you may have a total of 14 days, but your days, not counting being on a plane going back and forth, there's 12 days. And then, so that's 7 days out of that 12 days in that hotel. So then you have roughly 5 days. That wouldn't be worth it. So if it hurt a lot of international travel at the time. Moonless says no one likes Biden, sleepy boy. No, there's a lot of people who do like him. There's still people who support him. Some people will support anyone. Nick Tabor says people on both sides said no to the jab. No, I did mention that. I did mention that, Nick. I said I would give respect to the people who said no to the jab, regardless of who was in office. I did say that. I said I didn't agree with them, but at least I respect I was like, at least I respect their consistency. I said what I rolled my eyes at were the people who said no to the jab when Trump was still in office, and then turned around and said everyone needs to get it when Biden came into office. Those are the people I disdain, because to me they're being hypocrites, and it shows that they didn't really care about the science. They were just doing it to show that they were being Team Blue. Cat says I'm part of the control group. LOL. Nicole says people on the left said not if it came from Trump. Kamala said that. Yeah, exactly. Yep. And you're absolutely right, Nicole. I do remember her saying something to that effect as well. She sure did. She sure did. I'm about to get off soon, guys. I didn't realize it was so late. But this has been an engaging conversation. Thank you. I haven't had like an engaging conversation like this in a while. Nick Tabor says no. This is a republic. Yes, technically. So I'm assuming you're talking about us here in the states, right? Yeah. So technically, the United States is called a federal republic. A federal republic is a type of democracy. There are different types of democracies, by the way, fellas. Like, I hate to put on my little political science 101 hat here, but yes, democracies come in different flavors. You have constitutional monarchies like the UK. Um, you have federal republics like us. Okay. There are there are different types of democratic um, nations. So yes, technically we are a federal republic, but it is a democracy, at least on paper. Terry says good night, everyone. Good night, Terry. Thank you for stopping by, man. I hope you stop by on my other streams. Mind you, I fluctuate on a lot of different topics just to give everyone like a different flavor of things. Cass is like sharing sub people. Thank you. Nah, cause I'm on the Eastern Shore though, it's a different world than the West Side. Because you and I know the West Side is the best side. I'm playing. I'm playing. I'm playing. No, I've been on the Eastern Shore. So my grandmother's um, family is originally from uh, I guess Kent. Is that like right after you go over the Bay Bridge? I think that's Kent, right? So her family is originally from there. Because I'm pretty sure that was I'm pretty sure that was a slave port back in the 1700s and 1800s. So she's from that part of Eastern Shore. Now uh, I've been on Eastern Shore too. I have not yet. Ironically, I have not been I have not gone to to Ocean, we call Ocean Bay or whatever. I have not been there yet. To the beach, Ocean beach. What is sorry? What is it called? It's late, so I'm sorry, I can't remember. But yeah, but I've been to Salisbury and I've been to Westover. People in Westover are mad chill, and I love how temperate the, the in Westover, it seemed like the temperature never got too extreme. It never got really cold. It never got really it did get hot, but it never got really cold there. And although it did get hot, it didn't get like it never felt like blistering heat like you have here um in the Baltimore Washington region. But yeah, I've like I've been to both places. I've been to Salisbury a couple of times. My cousin used to go to Salisbury State University. Um, so I used to go there. I've been there a few times to visit her on campus, and when she graduated, and then I've been to Westover. Um, I think it's called Westover, right? And like I said, my grandmother's family is originally from Kent, I believe. So yeah, I know about Eastern Shore. Eastern Shore is its own creature. That's the whole Delmarva. Like Delmarva is like a completely separate region from Central Maryland. Like when people think of Maryland, more or less they're thinking of Central Maryland. They're not thinking of Delmarva or Western Maryland or Southern Maryland. Southern Maryland is more akin to like Virginia. Western Maryland is more akin to like Pennsylvania, more or less. And Delmarva is like its own thing. Cat says you still have to register when you are 18, but they do enforce it. That's weird though. So voting is compulsory, but it's not. But they still make you register. That's dumb. Like if it's compulsory, why not just automatically opt people in? So that's how some countries do it, Cat. Like that's how a lot of countries have a higher voter turnout, not by compulsory votes like you guys have, which is I've never even heard of that, to be honest. But other countries have a automatic um, registration when people turn 18, so they don't have to register. Instead, if they don't want to vote, they have to opt out. So to me, that makes more sense. But to compel someone to vote and then still force them to register, that's that's getting the worst of both worlds. And Narco says, yeah, forced voting is wild. I completely agree. He's saying they still don't get 100% turnout. Right. Because some people would literally just rather take a fine than be forced to vote. Because when you force someone to do something which is supposed to be a civil right, then when you turn something from a civil right into a a duty of being a citizen, then it takes away what makes it important. So Donald says we're known as the nanny state because of the lockdowns, plural, and the police ensuring people had been jabbed. But in the last 2 years, scores of cops in Victoria quit after the police protests. Good job. Cat says I know of many that write on their ballot paper no suitable candidate. I don't. They should vote them. They should. Why don't they write in themselves? That's what I would do if I was forced to vote and I didn't want either candidate. I would vote. I would write in. I would write in my own name. Do I don't know if you guys can do write-ins there, but here we can do write-ins if we don't want any candidate. You can just write any person's name in there, including yourself. Imagine like you're in a small village or township or district of a city or whatever, and you have to vote for the local um the the district uh what do they call those people I forgot, but like your local politician, and because it's such a low voter turnout that you write in your name and you actually end up winning, that would be outrageous. Don says they were protesting their pay or lack thereof. So I get it because it's a crap job that demands a lot. So now there's enough. So now there's not enough police. That's bad. So thank you for verifying the headbutt technique. No problem. If you become a member, I actually have some. I actually have a Muay Thai workout video too. It's for working out, but it actually shows you like actual techniques. It's not like cardio kickboxing like Billy Blanks back in the day with the whole um what was the Billy Blanks thing called? Originally, eventually after everyone started doing it, it became called cardio kickboxing. But he was the first one to really start that doing that with the Billy Blanks. I forgot what it's called, but yeah. Anyway, so I do like a little video in my members only section for people who want to learn like Muay Thai and just train like within the confines of their bedroom. So I literally do it within a small square of space just to show that anyone can practice at any time in any place, even in the confines of a small bedroom. And I literally just show them how they can do like kicks, elbows, knees, punches from the comfort of their home and practice that. Cassius, there are idiots among us. We have them doing that here in Australia. Yeah. Down says, yeah, it's so dumb. Some people write their funniest stuff on their ballot, Jedi Master, etc., etc. I can imagine. So I'm for Qui Gon Jinn. Who's Qui Gon Jinn? Yeah, he's right. So yep, during MEPS. No, it wasn't during MEPS. This was at a reception. Um, this was after this is once reception is once you the week before basic training stat. Because it's the week before they load you up on a bus so that you can be you remember like they make you get on the bus and they tell everyone to put your head down in your duffel bag, you can't look up or whatever. And then as soon as you because they don't want you to see where you're going, and so then as soon as you get to where you're going, then the drill sergeant jumps up on the bus and yells, "Get off the bus! Everybody, get the fuck off the bus right now! Get up!" That's when they they removed that, by the way, from boot camp. Now they're not allowed to do that anymore. Although I don't know, Trump might reinstitute that. But yeah, they're not allowed to do that. I forgot what that's called. Someone can in the comment section might be able to remind me what that's called. But yeah, they're not allowed to do that anymore. But yeah, reception was after maps. This is after you've already enlisted and they sent you to your boot to your to wherever you're going. whether it's Fort Jackson or wherever. And reception was the whole week where they learned where you have to get your clothing, do your vaccinations, learn your basic military terminology, and then before you could start boot camp, you had to do a 1 mile run, um, to show that you were fit enough to do boot camp. And there was literally some people who couldn't do that 1 mile who had to stay back at reception until they could finish until they could complete that run. And I think they gave them like 2 times before they will wash out. Like I think you got 2 tries to do that 1 mile run, or you will get washed out, which is a goddamn shame. If you washed out a reception, like you can't even call yourself a veteran. Seriously, you can't call yourself a veteran if you washed out in reception. But no, that's not MEPS. MEPS, you didn't. I don't remember getting vaccinations at MEPS. We didn't get vaccinations again until like we got to boot camp. But before you could start boot camp, you had the week of reception. Currently now they've actually elongated reception. Now boot camp is 10 weeks long because now they do 2 weeks of reception and 8 weeks of basic training, where it used to be 1 week it used to be 9 weeks long. It used to be 1 week of reception and 8 weeks of basic training. Don says thank you, Contrarian. I just subscribed to your channel. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Now says I have to sleep as well. Yeah, we all do, man. It's late here. I'm yeah, because we're in the same time zone. He said this has been enjoyable. Have a good evening. Thank you. Ocean City. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me. I You think I would know that because I love Ocean City. I used to love the Ocean City fries. That's what made me a big fan of putting putting the that the seasoning on everything. Like I literally take my seasoning with me overseas and got my wife hooked on on it. Oh, you said I was born in Salisbury. Okay, that's what's up. And Cass says it makes more sense. Adon says, and Oz, I know people in their mid 50s who've never voted because they've never registered. So, well, so if they make you register, how do they get how do they get away with not registering? Because so like here, like here, like when you turn 18, you're expected to register to vote and you like at the same time you register to vote and you register for the selective service if you plan on using like wanting federal student aid to go to college, which is messed up because only men have to do it here. So this is why a lot of people used to say it was unfair that women don't have to register for the selective service and but they still get access to federal student aid. And this is why some people also said, well, they shouldn't register to vote either because they don't have the burden of having to go to war. So, but that's a story for another live stream. Cass says my cousin managed to get an exemption based on religious grounds. Oh, P90X. Yeah. Thanks. Don says, yeah, I'm down to learn some fighting and self defense techniques. I'd rather nothing happen, but it's just not true in some places. Yeah, see, the thing about self defense is that that's what it is. Like, it's unavoidable. Like, we can't control what other people do, we can only control what we do. Um, but we, you know, there are going to be irrational people out there and you have to be prepared for it. And especially since you're in a country where they don't even allow firearms, more or less, um, gotta protect yourself some way. That's says yes. He says since January 2023, I've had 3 bones broken by neighbors and a terracotta pot thrown into my forehead, which needed 3 stitches. Damn. Yeah, you should definitely be joining. I would definitely recommend you join an MMA gym or kickboxing gym or a boxing gym. Not a cult says Thrashers fries. So I've never had the Thrashers fries specifically. Like here, over here they just generically just call them Ocean City fries. And like I know like especially like in college, um they used to just sell them in the remember the big cup, um and they just called them Ocean City fries. And I used to love those so much. Like I'm not even a fry person, but I was like, yo, these are better than McDonald's. Like the only the only thing that was like almost as like the compared to the Ocean City fries were when Checkers the Checkers fries, but man, those were so. But yeah, the Ocean City fries were so good, man. Don says thanks for your advice. Oh no, you're welcome. Yeah, definitely, like and say and so I don't know what your time is or what your finances is, but say if you can't go to a gym, there are a lot of um uh martial arts coaches like myself who have high more bona fides than I do that have actually like um online training videos that you can buy. They can teach you. Like there's one guy, Sean Fagan, called the Muay Thai guy. He has a great online tutorial. uh Jeff Chan with MMA Shredded, he has um he has some online training tutorials. uh a lot of guys do. I can't remember all of them, but those are two ones I can recommend personally. I don't know them, but I've chatted with them on their Instagram and stuff like that. They're good guys, and I love the content they make. And these are actual like competitive fighters. Like Sean Fagan was a competitive Thai boxer. I think he and a champion at one point too. Jeff Chan competed in Muay Thai and MMA, and he has a black belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. So he's legit. They're both legit. There's another guy, Kevin Lee, is someone I recommend too. He's from my flavor of Jeet Kune Do, but he's certified in Jeet Kune Do and Muay Thai. He didn't compete, but he's certified in the Thai Boxing Association here in America. Um, he's also certified in Filipino martial arts, and he just got his silver glove in Savat. Savat is French kickboxing. The silver glove is tantamount to a black belt in like another martial art. So he just got awarded his silver glove, and he has a black belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu as well. And he trains in CSW, which is Combat Submission Wrestling, and he's a Shifu and Wing Chun Kung Fu, and he does boxing. What else does he does everything, man? And I think I think he started off with a black belt in Taekwondo when he was a kid. So he's very well rounded. So those three people, Sean Fagan, the Muay Thai guy, Jeff Chan, MMA Shredded, and Kevin Lee, all legit. Or but if you can physically go to a gym, then I recommend you actually going to a physical gym out there. But definitely learn something so you can protect yourself, man. Because some people out here are crazy. Narcos has no weak spots, nose, throat, etc. If your opponent has trouble breathing, they will have trouble fighting. If a man can't breathe, he can't fight. Where did I hear that from? I think that was Karate Kid 3 with Terry Silver, right? I'm pretty sure Terry Silver said that in Karate Kid 3. Man can't breathe, he can't fight. Down says, yeah, friends want me to do exactly that. I will listen to them. To the fact that you got into so many rows with like neighbors and stuff like that, yeah, you gotta protect yourself. See here, and even and here where I live, it's even more dangerous. People like to hit. People aren't gonna just like fight. They're gonna, or when people fight, after they get their butt beaten because they got bruised egos, then they want to go grab their pew pew. So that's why I try to avoid fights. But like I said, some people are crazy, so gotta know how to protect yourself. Uh, Not a says if it's not thrashers, they are just called boardwalk fries. Yeah, that's it. That's what they call boardwalk fries. I'm sorry, because I never heard specifically of thrashers. I just had boardwalk fries, and I love them. So, but I like I said, I do bring my Chesapeake Bay seasoning with me when I go overseas. Now I got my wife hooked on it. She in the Philippines. Like I got her hooked on it. So I bring a big thing of it whenever I go over there to last us until I come back to the states. But the next time I go, I may not be able to. I may not be coming back to the states, so I'm gonna just order it online from there. But I haven't even got her to try the fries, and I'm gonna have to tell her to try it on the fries. I don't know why I forgot to tell her that. But anyway, I'm out, guys. It's late. I know you guys gotta go to sleep. I want to go to sleep. So we'll talk later. This has been a great conversation, though. And to the person who was asking what those certificates are on my wall, he was being a bit of a troll. That's why I didn't answer him. But those are my degrees. One is the other is a army medal and certificate of achievement, and the other one is like me being on the student not honor roll, but like the dean's list. But it wasn't the dean. It was like for an entire it was like a multi ethnic department at my school. They gave put me on the achievement academic achievement list. So that's what those are for people asking. No, Cole says, yeah, I recommend visiting the Ocean City in like August, less tourists. Really? I would think it would be a lot of tourists in August. But all right, if you say August is less tourists, all right, I'll try that then. I'm thinking there's going to be like a lot of tourists between like June, July, and August. I'm thinking it might be better to come in May or September. But yeah, August wouldn't be bad. Like I said, I'm definitely so now that I know specifically about thrashers, I'm gonna look for those instead of just the regular boardwalk fries. Because that's the only thing I know about here is the boardwalk fries. But all right, guys, I'm out. Take care, everyone.